How long will you live? All right, in my talk today, what we're going to talk about is, has life expectancy actually doubled since 1900? How fast is life expectancy increasing? How long will you live from here? How long should you expect to be retired? At what age should you plan for to be confident that you're never going to run out of money? Why is it important to invest for growth after you retire? And what do you need for an awesome retirement? All right, so first of all, let me say yes, life expectancy has almost doubled since 1900. It was 48 then, it's 83 today. That's life expectancy from birth. So on average, it's been increasing by about 2 years per decade. So in 40 or 50 years, it should increase another 8 or 10 years, and the life expectancy should be over 90. And yes, it is still growing. So now, why is it growing? So a couple of things. First of all, they're just new technologies. We've solved a lot of diseases. So, back in 1900, the biggest killers of humans were a few diseases that we now have mastered: tuberculosis and diphtheria and measles and a bunch of those. And we've just learned how to prevent many of those diseases. So also, it used to be like people did much more physical work, so a lot more accidents, when people were younger. And another huge thing is, child deaths for children, like children under age 5, are down 97% since then. And that's, a lot of it is better health care, like prenatal care, like in birth, but also it's diseases when the kids are young. And one child that dies at birth, it takes average, an average of 83, it brings it down a lot. So a lot of the growth has been, younger people not dying. Now, it's interesting when I talk to a lot of younger people today, they're not actually aware that life expectancies are rising. A lot of them think that they should be declining because of, a bunch of reasons. And I think, young people they haven't really seen that the world gets better all the time. Like for us that have been around for a bunch of decades, we see how life was years ago, decades ago. And you see, life is basically better in every important way. And life expectancies is just one example of that. People tend to believe kind of the news and social media that catastrophizes everything. But, we want to talk about facts here. The world is actually getting better. So on average, we're living longer. Now, the world does get better all the time in free enterprise democracies, and that's a big part of it. So, so what we need to do to keep bettering our lives is allow science and new discoveries to keep improving our lives, and allow free enterprise to create the jobs and the lifestyles we want. And that's what helps improve life expectancy as well. So now most people live longer than this 83 though, and that's because that's from birth. And we're talking about from, where you are today. The average is still dragged down by the much smaller number of kids or teens that die. Now, so your life expectancy from today is going to be higher. So all these life expectancy stats that I have here, they all assume average health. So if you have, significantly worse health in a way that reduces life expectancy, so maybe it'll be less for you, but, health is something you can also improve as well. So for example, if you're age 65 today, your average life expectancy is age 90. So it's not 83, it's age 90. So, and that's the average. So, all right. So now I've got a table here that I'll show you. This is from the Financial Planning Standards Council, how long we should plan for. And there's three columns there. M is for male, F is female, and the MF is it's the last survivor of a couple. So, if you're planning for for a couple to how long you're going to live, you want to plan, you don't want to run out until both of you are gone. So that's what those ages are. So now you can see there from the average life expectancy, the average life expectancy is in the 50% column. So that means 50% of people or couples are expected to live longer than that and 50% less than that. So now for planning purposes, a 50% chance of running out of money is not really reassuring. So that gives you a life expectancy, not a good number to use for lifestyle or retirement planning. So now to be confident in never running out of money, you should use the 10% column. Maybe you want to use 20, but 10% is, you want to have a pretty low chance of ever running out of money. At that point, you still have a 10% chance of running out of money while one of you is still alive, but that's pretty low. So you'll see there that, it's 101 is what, for people that age 62 or 65, like, retirement age. Typical retirement age now is 62, but people around that age have a 50% chance to 94 and a 10% chance of making it to 101. That's why we usually, when we do financial plans or retirement plans for people, we usually use age 100 because we're thinking it's a round number, but it's actually very realistic in what, once people reach retirement age, there's a decent chance that, one of them is going to make it to 100. So now your retirement is likely to be more than 30 years and possibly 40 years, right? From 62 up to 94 or maybe 100, 101. So 30 or 40 years. And this is why it's really important to invest for growth. So now, if you're retired, you probably have a long-term time horizon. And, I've got a couple stats here of typical retirements. And, you'll see that you need somewhere between, I think people are shocked by this, but if you're retired for 30 or 40 years, what you find is between 70 and 88% of your retirement income is from growth of your investments after you retire. So it's not what you saved or even what your portfolio value is when you retire. Most of it is growth after you retire. And that's true whether you have whether you're more conservative or more growth focused investments. For example, for a modest, what I call a modest retirement, 80,000 a year retirement before tax, somewhere between 82 and 88% of your income is from growth after retirement. And for a more comfortable 150,000 a year retirement, it's between 70 and 80% of your growth is after retirement. So it's really important that your investments still grow, to provide for you after you retire. So now generally the investment risk that you had before you retire is probably the best choice for retirement. Like, again, this is custom for everybody, but a lot of people just assume that you should invest more conservatively when you retire, and I don't think that's right. I think it's better in most cases. It makes more sense to just keep the same investments that you had before, and now you're just taking a little bit out each year. So now, two common misperceptions by investors that don't have a financial plan. One is that older people should invest more conservatively, which I just showed why not. And the other is that you will spend less when you're old, like say after age 75 or 80 or something. Now, our experience, when we have retired people that have both health and money, they spend as much in their 80s as they did in their 70s or 60s. So in fact, usually it's more luxury travel and less active travel. And most people, once they have a lifestyle they're comfortable with, they want to just kind of maintain that lifestyle. So they don't want to reduce their lifestyle at some point. Now, in actual fact, a lot of people do spend less in retirement, or say after age 75 or 80. But I think the main reason for that is because most people don't save nearly enough for retirement. So they get to that point and they're probably out of money, or they're getting low on money, or they're just not confident in how much they can spend. So I believe that the reason people spend less when they're older is because they either can't afford it or they have health issues. It's one of those two. But if you have both of those, I just came back from a cruise. There were tons of people over 80 on that cruise, really. So for an awesome and comfortable retirement, you need both health and money. So, and actually I just did a recent post, it's just in the last week or two, about having a longer lifespan, health span, and wealth span. And you can plan for all of them. You can influence how long you'll live, how healthy you'll be in that time, and how much money you'll have in that time. All of that you can plan for and you can build up. So you can have an awesome retirement. My name is Ed Rempel. My blog is Unconventional Wisdom. It's #1 in Canada for a financial planner. It's just edrempel.com or unconventionalwisdom.ca. You got to use the .ca because we're in Canada. Or if you want a free 30-minute consultation with us just to see if we might make sense to work together, just go to my blog and you'll find it there under contact, or just go edrempel.com/talk. I also have a blog, podcast, and YouTube, so you can listen to my podcast at edrempel.com/listen. You can watch edrempel.com/watch, or you can read it on the blog edrempel.com. Thanks again for listening, and we'll see you next week.